evening. My name is Elise Hoffenberg, and I am the Director and President of the Mental Health Commission of Lyons Township, as well as the Clerk of Lyons Township. I'm so thrilled to be here with you today. Thank you so much for all coming out tonight. So good to see you. Pat Hines is here. He helped arrange this wonderful event. Pat and I have spent the last couple of years kind of trying to reimagine what local government can do to better serve you as our taxpayers. We work to build a new model of government that's kind of rooted in responsiveness, innovation, and care. We work really hard every day to create real human-centered solutions to the challenges you guys all face every day. And property taxes, things we have to deal with after family passes, concerns we have about what happens when we pass. These are all things that we grapple with. And we work hard to try to find resources to bring to you to ease your concerns with this, to make your tax dollars go a little bit farther. I want to introduce you to Pat Hines. I'm sure most of you know him. He's my good friend. He's spent his entire life serving his community. He's a firefighter and an EMT in Western Springs. He's a dedicated public servant. He worked in the Cook County Assessor's Office before we were able to get him here as our Lyons Township Assessor. Pat combines deep expertise in property tax policy with lifelong commitment to fairness and transparency. Pat is so committed to this, he literally will ride his bike around when he's not working at the township, trying to find properties that aren't on the tax rolls to save all of us money. Because if those properties aren't on the tax rolls, we're bearing the burden of that house that's missing. So that's how committed Pat is. From fighting fires on the front lines to fighting for homeowners facing unfair tax hikes, Pat has always stood up for working families and people who invest their whole lives into living in our wonderful community. Pat has committed his life to making the system work for everyone, not just the well-connected. So without further ado, please help me welcome our assessor, Pat Hines, to say a few words.
Well, thank you, Elise. I didn't realize you were going to reveal my secret that when I'm riding my bicycle around town, I might be looking at some of these assessments. I'm really excited that so many people came here tonight. This program was set up by former Clerk Karen Yarborough, God rest her lovely soul. There was a study done that showed that a lot of folks in the middle and lower income brackets were not passing property to the next generation because it was too complicated. You had to have a trust. You had to maintain the trust every year. It was expensive. It was confusing. And so they came up with this really elegant system, the transfer on death instrument, which you're going to hear about tonight. And it just simplifies it. It makes it easier. You're going to hear all about it. You can declare who's going to get your property. You let them know. They bring your death certificate to the clerk's office, and then your next of kin, your desired person, is going to just be issued a new title, which is wonderful. So now Monica Gordon is the new clerk, and she's added to it. She's made it a little bit more to this program. So it is my pleasure to host this and to coordinate with Clerk Monica Gordon. Lyons Township is also open for appeal for 30 days. So for those of you who are dissatisfied with your assessment, my staff is there in the back. So before you leave, if you'd like any property tax question answered, or if you'd like some assistance in filing an appeal, please come see us before we leave. So I would like to introduce Kelly Merrick, who is going to represent Monica Gordon's office, to come and speak.
Well, good evening, everyone. So, as Assessor Hines said, my name is Kelly Merrick. I have the privilege and the honor to serve as Special Assistant to Cook County Clerk Monica Gordon. I am here tonight on her behalf. She was unable to make it, but she sends her warmest regards, and also a really big thank you. And she just wants to commend you all for making the step of being here tonight so that you can protect your assets, not just now, but your family in the future. So I want to start by thanking your local elected officials who have put this together. I just want to say that this is an incredibly packed house. And so there were, I think, about just under 400 people signed up. And I think that that's one of the things that's testament to how hard your local elected officials are working for you. So just the fact that they know that they can get to you, and the fact that you know that they have information like this that's going to be so pertinent and vital in your life. So I also want to say that, the clerk's office, we are truly grateful for your leadership and your commitment. And it's because of your dedication that this room is packed like this tonight. And so that means that we'll have 400 people that are going to leave empowered with information that they need not only to protect their families, but to protect their futures. So can we just take a second and give Assessor Hines and Clerk Hoffenberg a hand? I just feel like that was very well deserved. And so tonight's Property After Death and Property Fraud Prevention Forum is probably one of the most impactful outreach programs that comes out of our clerk's office. The information is critical for families, for senior citizens, and for homeowners across Cook County who want to protect what they have worked so hard for, and what they've worked so hard to build, and to ensure that their assets stay in the hands of the ones that they love. So you're going to leave here tonight with practical, accessible ways to prepare your family to preserve the legacy and stability that you have created over the years. And also, before we begin, I want to recognize some members of the clerk's office team that are here with us tonight. I know a lot of you had a chance to get back there to the table and meet everyone, but we have an incredible staff. And that staff takes public service to a whole other level. So joining us this evening, we have Christina Saldana, who is the Deputy Clerk of Operations and a proud Lyons Township resident. She's right over there. We have Bonnie Johnson. She is Executive Assistant to our Chief of Staff, and that means that she knows all. So she's right there in the back. Brittany Preston and Madison Bowen. Just so you guys know, these are two of the most skilled community outreach specialists in all of Cook County. And we have both of them here. So they're standing in the back too. Talia Welch is the Executive Assistant in our Community Outreach Office. And if you know anything about EAs, you know that we can't run without the EAs. So that's the boss back there. And we also have Jeannie McGraw. She is the Director of Property Fraud for the Clerk's Office. So she can answer all of your questions in real time. That's the one that's making the decisions. We have her too. Where is Jeannie? Oh, okay, she just stepped out, but you'll see her later. I want to say that we're incredibly grateful for the work that this team does every day to support residents and to make programs like this one possible. So feel free throughout the night to connect with them at any point. They and we are here to help. Oh, you know what? I got one more. I missed one. And this is the man that's documenting everything to make sure that it's proof that we were here. Carlos Rodriguez is right over there in the corner, and he's from our media and communications team. So that's the tech guy. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce someone who is instrumental in leading this initiative and making sure families across Cook County receive this critical information in real time. Another special assistant to the clerk, our very own Robin Staggers. So please join me in welcoming Robin.
Fantastic job. Thank you, thank you. Good evening, everybody. It is a pleasure to see all of you here. These numbers have skyrocketed from a week ago, from under 100 to almost 400 registrations. So give yourself a round of applause. We are happy to be here with you. So as everybody took some of my introduction and all of that. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Assessor Hines. So some things I do not have to repeat. You met our staff, and we would not be here without the capable hands of our staff and hosts like Patrick Hines. He has done a fantastic job. I have to give it to him again because we did not expect these numbers. I've worked with Assessor Hines on a number of initiatives, and we started out with him maybe before COVID and did one of these events somewhere else, and you guys always show up and show out. So it's a testament to the good work that he does, and it's a testament to your commitment to your village. So thank you for coming out. Now, without further ado, when you came in, right, you were given a package. That package includes an index card, a how to check your deed bookmark. Everybody got this? You got a property fraud alert application, and you also got a property after death transfer on death instrument. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you to silence your phones so that they don't interrupt the flow of the presentation. And I'm going to also ask you to write your questions on the index cards. Okay? That's going to help us speed this thing along and be out of here in a timely fashion. So if you have questions, jot them on the what?
Index card.
Index cards. You're listening. Thank you. I don't know if you've been here before, but the bathrooms are out the doors to your right. And if you have any questions, as I said, please put them on the index cards. So the clerk's office is responsible for the following: suburban elections, vital records. We keep your marriage, your birth, your death records in our office. We do property recordings and real estate and tax services. So if you lose your property for the taxes, you would come to our office to redeem them. And we have a vibrant Veterans Services Office. How many veterans do we have in the audience? Awesome. Thank you for your service. Thank you so much for your service. Stop by our table in the back. We have a free veterans discount card that we give to veterans where they can get discounts at over 100 vendors that we partner with throughout Cook County. So please take care of it, and everybody likes free, right? It's free. Now I have a few questions for you. How many of you know that it's easier to steal a home than it is a car? How many knew that? No, quite a few. But you don't know what you don't know until you come here and see us, right? So we're giving you some pertinent information that you can take from here and use it to your benefit. We're not saying that you have to sign up for any of our services, but we're here to educate you about alternatives that you have to transferring your home, your car, your bank account, without a lawyer, no legal fees, no court costs, and you don't have to go to probate. Okay? The other thing I want to know from you is, how many of you have a plan for transferring your wealth? We're in the right place. How many don't have a plan? That doesn't balance out. I'm going to ask, you can tell us. We're not going to tell anybody. We're here to help you. So let me ask the question again. How many have a plan to transfer their wealth? That's a larger number. How many do not? Okay. We're here to help all of you. So if you don't have a plan, we're here to tell you about the importance of having a plan to transfer your wealth to your beneficiaries. Okay? Our staff is not allowed to ask legal questions, so we partner with community legal estate planning professionals who are here with us tonight. So they will introduce themselves after we show you our presentation. And the presentation will not take that long. Okay, free information. All this information is free. Okay? Free. Free. Everybody likes free. So see us after the presentation and we'll collect your property fraud alert applications. You're going to learn more about that. We don't have to have your property ID number. We can look it up through your address, okay? We only ask that you show us your ID so that we can make sure you're not the fraudster. That's fair, right? So we're going to go ahead with our presentation and I'll be back.
Please note, there are lawyers present today who work for the Cook County Clerk's office, but although they are lawyers, they are not your lawyers. They can answer any questions related to the office, but they cannot and will not offer you legal advice. However, the volunteer attorneys on this panel today are sharing their time and expertise with you as a public service. They are not paid by the clerk's office to be here, and you are free to consult them or any qualified attorney to address your legal concerns. There are free legal service organizations we partner with who are present here today. They can offer you legal advice for free. We would also encourage you to see if you qualify for their services. Thank you and enjoy the presentation.
Hello and welcome. I'm Monica Gordon, your Cook County Clerk. Thank you for joining us today for this important presentation on property fraud and managing your property after death. One of the main responsibilities of the Cook County Clerk's office is to record and maintain property deeds and other property transaction records that take place in Cook County. In that role, one of the most important duties we have is to protect Cook County homeowners from property fraud. Unfortunately, there are fraudsters out there who attempt to file forged documents to illegally transfer the property of unsuspecting homeowners. Today, we will inform you about this issue and show you how you can register with our office for a free property fraud alert service to help protect your home and property. Another topic we will cover is making plans to manage your property after your death or the death of a loved one. We understand it can be difficult to talk about end-of-life planning, but it's essential to protect your assets to ensure the well-being of your family. At the Cook County Clerk's office, we are here to serve. We hope the information shared in today's presentation will empower you with the knowledge you need to address these important issues that affect our daily lives. Thank you again for being here, and please enjoy the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we begin our discussion, we want to let you know that we will have volunteer attorneys available at the end of the presentation who can answer your questions about the topics we will be covering. Now, let's begin our discussion by talking about making plans to manage your property and assets in the event of your death. As Clerk Gordon noted, no one wants to talk about death or end-of-life planning, but it is critical to manage your assets to protect your family and loved ones. Having a sound end-of-life plan is one of the greatest gifts that you can provide to your children and family members. Consider this. What do you think these three legendary individuals have in common? Prince, Aretha Franklin, and Abraham Lincoln.
7 years ago.
They have something very unfortunate in common. They failed to make plans for their assets upon their death. No will, no trust, no plan. Now let's consider someone who thought he had it right. Music legend James Brown, the godfather of soul. When he passed away in 2006, Brown's estate was worth an estimated $90 million. When he died, Brown left behind a plan for most of his estate to pay for scholarships for children in need in South Carolina, the state where he was born. But that will was challenged by family members after his death, resulting in more than 12 lawsuits. It took more than a decade of litigation before Mr. Brown's assets were designated as he had intended. So, how do you get it right when it comes to your property after death? The best advice is to consult with an attorney or estate planning professional to provide you with advice for your specific circumstances. But you should also know that under Illinois law, you can transfer your home, your car, or your bank account to a loved one without a will or trust, and without having to pay fees or court costs. Here are the details on how to transfer your property. First, the transfer on death instrument. The clerk's office offers a free document on our website known as a transfer on death instrument, but we call it a TODI. Beyond the clerk's office, you can also obtain this document at no cost from an attorney or a legal aid organization. The form should be completed and notarized and then recorded at the clerk's office in our Recording Operations Division. The transfer on death instrument will then be recorded on your property's chain of title, and upon your death, the person designated to receive your property can do so after completing the required forms. While in the process of completing your TODI, be sure to contact the individual you plan to give the property to. Advise them they have up to 2 years to come to our office, complete the required forms to accept, and pay the recording fee. Please note that the clerk's office cannot assist you in the preparation of the transfer on death instrument or any legal document, and we do not provide legal advice to customers. Next, let's discuss a payable on death instrument. You can transfer the funds from your bank account in a similar way. Utilizing a tool known as a payable on death instrument, a person can transfer assets in a bank account to the beneficiary of their choosing after death. A payable on death instrument can be obtained and used at most financial institutions for checking and savings accounts, certificates of deposits, money markets, and savings bonds. Even if you have completed a payable on death instrument, the account holder has full control of their funds in the account until their time of death. When the account holder passes, the beneficiary can claim specified assets directly from the financial institution without having to wait for probate court proceedings. Finally, let's discuss a beneficiary affidavit. There is also a mechanism to transfer your car to a designated beneficiary. A vehicle owner may change, add, or remove a beneficiary on the title of their car by completing a free beneficiary affidavit through the Illinois Secretary of State's office. Keep in mind that if money is still owed on your home or vehicle at the time of your death, your beneficiary will still be responsible for the mortgage and payments moving forward. To obtain this beneficiary affidavit, go to the Illinois Secretary of State website at www.ilsos.gov. Now, let's move on to the second part of our program, property fraud, which can also be known as deed fraud. So what exactly is property fraud? Property fraud is the fraudulent and illegal recording of a document against your home's property records. We call it paper terrorism, and it is a very real problem and potential risk for all property owners. How can this happen? Almost every state has an open and public reporting system, meaning that you cannot freeze your chain of title like you can your credit report. Plus, county reporters are not authorized by law to validate legal claims made in documents. Property fraud can involve the recording or filing of false or forged transfers of ownership, quitclaim deeds, or the filing of a bogus lien to steal property or harass an unsuspecting property owner. Even if your home is paid off, that does not stop someone from filing a new deed on top of it without the property owner's knowledge. Let's look at this investigative report that takes a close look at how property fraud can occur.
Now to scam you and Rebecca, you have a story about a scheme that literally hits close to home for a lot of people.
Yeah, Whit, this is a warning about criminals stealing your most prized possession, your home, and you're about to see surveillance footage that authorities say shows the scam in action. This may look like a normal day at a county clerk's office, but look closely at this couple in the waiting room. Prosecutors say Michelle Cherry and her husband Victor Rodriguez were there to steal a home from unsuspecting owners.
To have someone steal your property it's like stealing the American dream. It's terrible. We've seen a big increase in that sort of activity.
According to Florida prosecutor Mike Lennon, Cherry made 3 trips to the clerk's office, stealing not 1 but 3 different Tampa area properties with fraudulent documents using quitclaim deeds, a type of deed that can quickly transfer ownership of property.
They looked for properties that they believed were abandoned, and then they used online information to forge signatures on these deeds to file them with the clerk of court.
Prosecutors say one of those properties belonged to Larry and Dreama Bilby.
Just like that, your house is stolen. Yeah. It's gone.
It only cost 70 cents and some paperwork.
The Bilbys tell us they weren't living in their home at the time because of construction, but they were monitoring their home security cameras, which they say showed the suspects on their property multiple times.
They took our power bill and our water bill. They cut off our name and put their names on it.
The Bilbys credit their county clerk's office with alerting them of the change in the home's title.
Anytime anything is filed against your property, you get an alert, whether it's a phone call, a text, or an email. It is a free service.
Even while Tampa police were investigating, the suspect seen here in this body cam video adamant the Bilby's home belongs to her.
I own it. I'm on the current deed.
They were stealing these properties with the intent to try to get loans out on the properties or to try to sell them to unsuspecting buyers.
Both suspects arrested.
You have a warrant?
And charged with conspiracy to commit fraud. Some officials are now calling for state laws to be changed, making it tougher to sell properties using quitclaim deed forms.
The fact that the form is so simple and requires so little documentation is problematic.
If you don't sign up for property fraud alert, you're just asking for the possibility that the same thing that happened to us.
To combat this problem, the clerk's office has a property fraud unit with investigators and caseworkers who respond to and investigate any complaints of property fraud. Our office also offers a free property fraud alert that will provide a telephone call or email to the property owner anytime a document is reported against their property or the property of a loved one. There are 3 easy ways to sign up for the clerk's free property fraud alert. You may sign up in person at the clerk's office, sign up online, or sign up with a telephone call. Once registered, if you receive an alert or have reason to be concerned about property fraud, you can contact the clerk's property fraud unit and our staff can help research the problem and coordinate a response. Call 312-603-4000 or visit our website at www.cookcountyclerk.com/property-fraud. On a related note, while we're on the topic of your chain of title and fraud, property owners often need to obtain an official copy of their property deed when purchasing a home, or for tax purposes. You should be aware there is a predatory practice aimed at homeowners in which companies offer a copy of your property's deed at a large markup price, sometimes exceeding $200. The clerk's office wants to remind you that we offer the same service at a more affordable price. So there's no reason to pay exorbitant prices to gain access to these essential documents. Check our website at www.cookcountyclerk.com/recording fees to get a full list of prices. On behalf of Clerk Monica Gordon, we hope that you have found this presentation useful. The clerk's office is your first line of defense against property fraud. So we hope that you will take this opportunity to sign up for our free property fraud alert if you have not already done so. Managing your property and your assets in the event of your death is also critical to protect your family and your assets, and to ensure that your wishes are carried out after your death. A copy of this presentation is available on the clerk's website if you would like to review it again or share with a friend or family member. Go to www.cookcountyclerk.com/PAD resources to view the presentation. For more information on how to host a property after death property fraud forum in your community, contact our special assistant to the clerk for Community Affairs, Robin Staggers, at 312-603-3974, or email robin.staggers@cookcountyil.gov. Now, let's ask the volunteer attorneys who are joining us to introduce themselves, and we will open up our presentation for your questions.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. It's kind of new because we usually don't introduce ourselves. So. My name is Steve Hinton. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing for about 22, 23 years. I have my own law practice. I started out practicing, was an assistant state's attorney in Cook County for about 5, 6 years, and I'm here.
Hi, I'm happy to see all of y'all here. My name is Eva Adams. I'm a legal aid attorney with the Center for Disability and Elder Law. We partner with the clerk's office. We have a help desk there by appointment only, bi-weekly on Wednesdays. I'm in charge of our housing preservation program.
My name is Devin Mapes. I'm an attorney with the county clerk's office. I do a variety of functions as an attorney there, but I focus on battle records and real estate and tax services. Before this job, I was a Cook County State's attorney. Before that, I was a clerk for a judge.
I'm Dan Trin. I'm at the Cook County Clerk's office as well. I'm the lawyer for the reporting operations, and I'm also the fraud unit supervisor along with Jeannie McGraw. And I had some experience at the Attorney General's office, Assessor's office, Chief Judge's office, and now at the County Clerk's office. And thank you for all attending. Thank you.
These are all capable and experienced attorneys. As you saw in the presentation, our office is not allowed to answer legal questions. That's why we partner with the legal counsel that is here with us. Now, the information you saw, how many of you learned something you didn't know? That's great. That's great. That's why we come out. We're here to give you information that you can use to help transfer your properties to your loved ones. Not only your real property, but your car and your bank account. And people perish for the lack of what? Knowledge. So we want you to have as much knowledge as possible that we can give you from our office and offer as many services as we can to assist you here in the community. Oh my God. So we got a lot of questions.
That's not comforting.
What?
I don't know, but oh my God.
No, I was talking to the staff for giving me the car. Was not talking to the staff. Yes, I was.
You're having a hard time.
Don't you come in here giving me a hard time. Attorney Hinton has been with us since practically the beginning of us doing this, so he is well versed on property after death and the transfer on death instruments and estate planning. So he is one of our trusted attorneys that we take out with us into the community. So we bring attorneys on a rotation. So if they're available, they come with us and they provide services and information to you. So thank you so much, Attorney Hinton. And Eva as well. Okay, I'm gonna start reading the questions. I'm gonna field them for them. So, I'm getting ready to get started. Does a will or trust interfere with the TODI?
answer is no, but you have to remember, I know we talked about transfer on debt instrument, I'll just refer to as TODI. We mentioned a TODI, but remember, TODI is just, it's an additional tool that an estate planner uses. So sometimes a TODI may be all you need, or it may be something that the estate planner will use in addition to a will or a trust. It just depends on, each individual here has a separate set of facts and financial situations. So, you know, again, it's just an additional tool.
So what documentation do you need to present upon your death? What does my beneficiary have to present upon my death in order to take possession of the property?
Well, the beneficiary, the named beneficiary on the transfer and death instrument, usually will record a acceptance affidavit. And we have that form as a courtesy on our website. That's for free. So they have to fill that out, have it notarized, and then come downtown to record it. And it will cost $107 to record.
This one person had a lot of questions. If a fraud alert is received, is it too late? Is it too late to file it if it's already done, if fraud has already occurred?
So you're all here, and that's a good thing. So sign up for that property fraud alert. It's free to do. If you signed up before, signing up again is okay to do. And if you sign up today and then maybe tomorrow at your home, you want to look at it and sign up yourself again, you can do that again. So definitely sign up for that free property fraud alert. By and large, if you sign up for that free property fraud alert and you get an alert, it's probably for something that you did, because you get an alert regardless of what gets recorded. So if you do a refinance, you get another mortgage recorded on there, you get an alert for the mortgage. And you'll get the alert for a release. If you add someone to your chain of title to the ownership and you record a deed, you'll get an alert. If you record a TODI, you get an alert. So remember to sign up for that free alert. Now we're close to bordering counties, and you'll have to check if your property is in another county. Check with that county's recorder's office to see if they have a free property fraud alert as well. Most of the counties in the research that I have done, the larger ones, will have something like that. It might be a little variation of the same thing, but do check if you have property in other counties. So most of the time, if you get a property fraud alert again, it's probably something that you did. Very rarely are you going to run into a situation where somebody's going to try to take over your house, steal your property, and that's usually if you're listing your property for sale and you're not there. So the fraudsters, what they do is they drive around and they look out Redfin, just like you can, Zillow, Redfin, and they'll target houses that have been on the market for a long time, or if your house is abandoned or looks abandoned, lots of weeds growing there, they'll look at that. If you have a property with your windows boarded up, they'll be looking at that as well. And if you have vacant land. So if you have that type of situation where you own a bunch of different properties, sign up for each of those properties. Again, it's free to do.
What's the cost to get an official copy of a property deed in Cook County?
If you go online, it won't cost you only $5. Only $5 to get a copy of your deed. But remember this, before you spend your $5, check your important records. Usually at closing, you'll get your original deed. And that's a little different currently if there's recording by e-recording, but typically at your closing, you'll get your deed. You'll have your original copy. But if you need a copy, you can go online and purchase it for only $5. And that's important to note that you actually don't have to buy anything if you don't want to. You can go on our website, Cook County Clerk, il.gov. Remember to go to the .gov website so you know you're going to the right website. Because some people will go to the wrong website and they pay a lot of money to a vendor, and it's not us. So our website at Cook County Clerk, il.gov, again, cookcountyclerk.il.gov. You type in your PIN number, and you can view all the records on your chain of title for free. You don't have to pay anything. So you can view all the recorded documents on your chain of title, once again, for free. And I suggest you do that, because it's free to do. Go home tonight, go on our website, check out your chain of title, and look and familiarize yourself with what's on your chain of title. That way, if you get an alert, then you know where to go to have a look. And if it is a document that you don't recognize, give us a call. And our fraud unit investigators are more than happy to talk you through. And our phone number for our fraud unit is 312-603-4000. Again, 312-603-4000.
And if you get something in the mail offering to get your deed for you or something like that, throw it away, because it's a scam. I just did a closing just last week, and my client called me. They received something in the mail, and they were offered to get a copy of their deed for $239. You just heard it. Someone said it was $5. And the reality of it is, as I told her, just relax. You're gonna get the original deed once it's recorded. But there are a lot of scammers out there, and they're charging a couple $100 to get something that you can get for $5.
One thing I'd add too is the clerk's office is not going to resolve if there is an issue with your deed or with your property. We're not going to resolve it in its entirety. We'll do a cursory investigation to make sure this is relevant to be investigated further, and then we'll kick it probably to the state attorney's office for them to take it from there. So we'll notify you if there's an issue, confirm whether or not it's an actual issue, and then move it along the process. So just so you know.
And I know this is a popular question, I just want to add, I think the original question was, is it too late? The answer is no. If you receive an alert, it is not too late. It becomes too late when there becomes more and more transactions on your property. It's harder to undo. So as soon as you get that alert, you do want to follow up.
Okay, can you explain the tenancy types? Tenancy types.
I would love to do this for y'all. So typically when you think about tenancy types, you're talking about co-owners, multiple owners on a property. I'm going to start with the first one being tenants by the entirety. Typically this is reserved for married couples. It historically was protection for women against, maybe a terrible suitor. With that said, that is essentially joint tenants with right of survivorship, but on steroids. You have to be married, and that is the only way. You can be married, and then you have this joint tenancy. When one spouse passes away, the other takes the entire property. Next, I would say there is joint tenants with right of survivorship. You may see joint tenants. This is not the default in Illinois. This is two co-owners owning the entire property, having an undivided interest. I know that's complicated to understand, but essentially what that means is if you have two or more people on a property, the survivor or the survivors of the first to pass away takes the rest of the property. So say you have three siblings, three sisters, all owning one house. When the first sibling passes away, the other two each own 50-50 kind of. Then when the next one passes away, the remaining sister has the whole property. And that is going to be very different than tenants in common, which here in Illinois is the default. If your deed does not specify how you own that property, you own the property as tenants in common. That essentially means that one or more people have a percentage interest, a specific percentage interest. So if you have those three sisters, again, each has 33.33% of that property. When the first sister passes away, her piece, if she does not have a home succession plan, so a TODI or a trust or something like that in place, that third will have to go to probate. It will not go to her two siblings. Again, that second sister passes away, her share will not go to the surviving sister. It will go through probate if there's no home succession plan. So that right of survivorship with joint tenants is really crucial. That's how you're going to keep it among the co-owners. But if that is not an option, you want to know how you have the property so that you can make a plan for each share if it's owned as tenants in common. Any additions?
No, and it sounds a little mean, but tenants in common would make sense for people who are not related. if we own property together, upon my passing, my heirs would then receive my half if it's tenants in common. So again, the default in Illinois is tenants in common. So if you don't see the language, any other language on your deed, you own the property as tenants in common.
Now, if I could ask a follow-up question or to other attorneys here, Robin. What if I wanted to add somebody to the title of my property? How would that impact my rights to that property?
All right, so first of all, it's not easy to add somebody to the deed. You cannot go to the clerk's office and add someone to your deed. You will either file a TODI, which adds a beneficiary who has no interest while you're alive. They only have an interest at your death. Or you can file a quitclaim deed. And when you do that quitclaim deed that adds somebody the title, I put that in air quotes, essentially what you're doing is you're saying, I'm selling my property, so from me to me and this other co-owner. And the difference in doing that versus a TODI is that they are a co-owner. So you are adding somebody who's going to have as many rights in the property as you do. So if they have debt, if they have a lien, if they have a judgment, that's against your property. You are a co-owner with them if you add them to the deed, which with spouses, sometimes, you know, you really want that. That's what you want. But if you're trying to have a home succession plan, a quitclaim deed or adding somebody to title maybe isn't the first choice.
That's perfect, because in these forums, a lot of times we'll get that question, can I put my son or daughter on the deed? Let me just quitclaim deed. And the answer is always you can, but then their creditors are on your deed as well. So if they didn't pay their student loans, if they owe for cars, whatever, all their debt is a part of yours. They can put a lien on your property. So.
Okay, give us the pros and cons to a transfer on death instrument.
From my perspective, I think the top pro is you avoid probate court. That's huge because it saves you a lot of money, saves you a lot of time. I'm not sure about that.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest, there aren't very many cons with the TODI. So you're talking $59 as opposed to going to probate court. It's a revocable document, so as long as you have capacity, you can revoke it. You sell your house, you get a new house, you can record a new TODI. So there's not very many cons. I think there is one case, so there is some case law about insurance. Like there's a gap in insurance in between your passing and your beneficiary taking ownership. But of course, that's one case in one state that's not Illinois. There are very few cons to a TODI.
And the probate court costs are approximately?
So the question for those who couldn't hear was, this probate court costs a lot. Give me 1 second, we'll touch on that. But the other, since I'm the lawyer for the clerk's office, it won't surprise you to hear that I would tell you that TODIs are a great option for your plans if, in consultation with your state attorney, they would agree. But they're also not that complicated to complete. There are some requirements. You need to have a notarization and whatnot, but they also, they would, what's the word, not supersede, but I guess they go first, would be another way to put it, above like a will. So the will would be secondary to a TODI, would be another way to say that. So those are some pros.
And you said the cost. I mean, typically, on average.
Because we hear probate,
right?
And I don't think
what's probate?
Know really what it is.
So
number one, and number two is the cost.
Well,
approximately.
Well, first of all, the cost of probate depends on the assets that the decedent has and the complexity of their estate. If there's fighting between the siblings, is everybody in agreement? So typically, attorneys you'll have to put a retainer down of about $2,500. That just starts the ball rolling. And probate costs can exceed, $10,000, $15,000. Again, it just depends on what type of assets. If all the decedent had was a house and a car, you're not going to get up to that much. But it just depends on what the parties have.
So is the TODI only for property?
Yeah, a TODI is for property, but think what I'm reading between the lines on this question is it's not just a house. You can use a TODI for a condo as well, and I think you can use it for vacant land.
And then just to reiterate, there are two other types of TODIs as well. There's one for your bank account. You get that at your bank. They would have the appropriate form. And then one for your car, which you can get that at the Secretary of State's office. So.
Well, just so we won't get confused with the language or anything, typically, the TODI is what we use for real estate, and for the bank accounts and things like that, we call them pay-a-debt instruments. So you will go to your bank or your lending institution and ask them for their specific document that you can fill out to transfer your assets upon your passing.
So a con for a TODI is, my experience, when you put way too many people on your TODI as beneficiaries, and then they start infighting and they come screaming down to the fraud unit, complaining and pointing fingers, and unfortunately that isn't what we want. So remember that the TODI is a tool, and it's in a toolbox, and as the attorneys here said, that it's a tool to be used, and remember to chat with your estate planning lawyer, especially if things get complicated, right? So it's important to realize that there are tools, but like a hammer, you don't want to hit your finger, as it were, while you're using it.
Okay.
So, like if you're going to do a TODI, say you have two properties, does each one have to have a separate?
Yes, each one of your properties has to be in a separate TODI.
So how do I change my property to a TODI if it's in a trust? And if you have a trust on your home, are you protected from fraud?
You want me to answer the fraud part first?
Yeah.
Nothing protects you from fraudsters. Nothing at all. I can go and find anybody's house in this audience and then fraudulently sign your name to a deed and get it recorded. It's that easy. So remember to sign up for a property fraud alert, okay? And again, there's a document that gets recorded against your property. Give us a call right away. If you don't, again, if you get a property fraud alert and you look online and it's like, whoa, what is this? Well, I don't recognize this. Give us a call. Again, 312-603-4000. We'd be more than happy to walk through your chain of title with you to look over that document that was recorded against your property.
So the first half of that question, we've used the analogy of tools in a toolkit multiple times today, and that really is true. So if your property is already in a trust, you might want to consider why it's in a trust. Did you already consult with a estate planning attorney? Did you do that on purpose? Trust law is a vast area of law. There are plenty of different types of trusts, and there's a lot of different reasons to put property or assets in a trust. With that said, I would differentiate a land trust just because I do know you're paying that yearly fee to maintain that, probably with Chicago Land and Title Company, as most of them are held with them. With that said, if you do want to take your house out of a trust and put a TODI on it, you will have to contact the person who's holding your trust in order to do that. Because you cannot have a TODI on a property that's in a trust. You can do it, it's just not worth it because you're spending $59 for a document that won't be effective.
And to keep up a trust, you have to pay to establish it and
Yes.
pay to maintain it, right?
Yeah, so if it's like a land trust, you're paying money yearly to have that company maintain your land trust. If it's just a trust that you paid that you set up, you have to pay exorbitant upfront costs to set it up, and then your trustee is, paying themselves to manage it based on the language in that document.
So if my spouse changes and I file a TODI, do I have to change my TODI?
Yes. Well, hang on. Depends. Do you want your former spouse to still have access to the property? If you do want to remove them, the only way to really to do that is to file a second TODI and update the information. It'll still cost you the same amount as the first one.
So how do you remove a person who is deceased
We-
from your deed if it's in joint tenancy?
If it's in joint tenancy, technically you don't really have to, but anyway, to make it easier for people, the Cook County Clerk's office, they have what's called, it used to be called a deceased joint tenant affidavit. I think it's surviving, see, that's how I've been doing this too long. It's called a surviving spouse affidavit. In essence, you're just filling an affidavit and it says, I, John Doe, was a joint tenant with Mary Doe, who passed away on December 5th, 1902, whatever, and attached to this is a copy of her death certificate. So what it does is it puts everyone on notice on the chain. So when they see this chain of title, they're looking at a deed and you try to sell this house, it has husband and wife on there. And when you already sell your house, they're like, well, wait a minute, I see husband sign his deed, but why is wife not signing his deed? Well, if you look on the chain of title, you see wife passed away sometime, and now we approve. But, I mean, technically, you really don't have to do it, but I think it makes things go a lot smoother and easier, I will say that.
And if I could add a more grim element to this general question, let's say you
have a reputation.
Well, we are talking about death and taxes, so there's nothing happy about these dollars anyway. But so let's say you are going to change or update the TODI, and you're on your way to the clerk's office to do that. To make that effective, you have to record it. And let's say something happens to you, you get into an accident or whatever, you don't quite make it to the clerk's office. That document, unfortunately, is not recorded and will not reflect the change in your wishes. So just keep in mind the emphasis is to record the document.
I did just want to follow up on the question about removing a spouse from a TODI. So the TODI only gives your beneficiary any interest in the property that you have. So if it's a joint TODI with spouses, a husband and wife, and they divorce and then one of them's off the property, that TODI isn't going to be effective as to the other spouse. Of course, best practice there is to just record a new TODI.
I was going to say that, because when you record a TODI, some of the first language is, this TODI hereby revokes all prior TODIs. So the last TODI that's on the property, that's the one that's going to supersede everything else anyway. So your wishes will be recognized at that point. And I know I say this at every forum we have. When we have these forums, everyone gets a lot of information. Everyone's pretty pumped up, and everybody's going to go out and file a TODI. You all got that TODI feet. And you're going to sit down, you're going to try to fill them out, and then some people, you won't be able to fill it out because it's going to ask you a question you don't know, you get back later. Some people are going to fill it out, and it's going to sit on that kitchen table. These TODIs have no value whatsoever unless they're recorded. You'd be surprised the amount of people that call my office and say, my mom prepared a TODI, I got it right here. And I said, well, that was a great exercise. Because it does nothing. It has to be recorded. Without it being recorded, it's just a wish. That's all it is. So record the TODIs if that's what you want to do.
And how exactly do you record them?
You would take them to the recorder, the
Cook County
Clerk's office. It used to be called Recorder Deeds Office. But you'll take it to the Cook County Clerk's office and they will record it for you. Oh, you have to make a copy of it. So you have to have the original, then make a copy, and then I believe it's $59. $59. They'll charge you, they'll record it right there, they'll give you the actual recorded TODI right there.
Where's the office?
Well,
The office is 118 North Clark Street in Chicago. First floor.
Can you record them anywhere else?
No. We do have remote locations for vital records, but that's not the same. That's not recording. And then one more thing. So the Recorder of Deeds office is technically a part of the Cook County Clerk's office. Now that's how Cook County does it, but if you have a property like Ken was mentioning in a different county, they may be separate offices in that county, so just as a heads up, don't confuse the two concepts. Yeah, the address, the question was, what's the address? It's 118 North Clark Street, Chicago, 120, first floor, 60602, if it matters.
I assume you have to be present to have it recorded, so like my senior citizens' parents, I would need to drive them down there with me to do it for them.
So that's what I was going to follow up with. Your house is really important, right? And something that's that important, you really should go downtown and record that document in person. With that said, I'll be honest, I spent an hour and 45 minutes in traffic just getting here today. So if you cannot physically get downtown, you can record a TODI by mail.
Certified.
By certified mail?
Isn't it certified?
No, it's either or, it just depends on which room you use.
You can, is the question, can you record by mail? The answer is yes, you can record by mail. We don't control, again, I think this is a concept that we just talked about in grim terms. We don't control the timing of when you throw that document in the mail until it gets to us. So if it's very important to you, you can send someone downtown to report on your behalf. That's okay to do. Yeah, that's totally okay to do. Just make sure that they have the original, a copy, and $59 to pay for the recording fee. And it's properly filled out. Check, cash, credit card, downtown.
They don't take Bitcoin yet.
And it's important, I think the caveat here is that you properly fill it out. The cashiers, the employees at the Cook County Clerk's office are not allowed to review your document for legal effectiveness. So if you write in, you misspell your name, spell the beneficiary's name, and I've seen that, by the way, or the handwriting is so poor that an I looks like an L, that's going to get recorded. Or if you make an error on the PIN number, your property mix number, and worse yet, I have seen a legal description. Does anybody here know what a legal description is for your property? Yeah. We've got a few people here that know. Some people don't know that, and they fill in what looks like a Redfin or Zillow advertising. Basically, they describe their home, how many bedrooms there are, how many bathrooms there are. That's totally wrong. Now, we would have intercepted that, luckily, but could you imagine that we record your document with all the errors that you have put in there? It's like doing your own plumbing. I'm sure you can do it, but is it going to work? Is it going to leak? So if you're in a situation where you're unsure of how to fill out this legal document, we have a help desk.
Yes, we have a legal help desk. You can fill out a form. I believe it's online. You don't have to go in person to fill out that form. We accept appointments on bi-weekly Wednesdays. It is by appointment, just because I have to look into your property, and that's really hard to do in person when you're looking at me. It's just very difficult. So you can fill out that form. Our office at the Center for Disability and Elder Law does follow up with every request for services. If it's something you can do on your own, I make an advice letter. If it's something that I can't do, I make an advice letter. If it's something that I can help you with in person at the clerk's office, we'll make you an appointment. We'll come in, we'll either, draft your TODI, we'll look at what's wrong. And if you're recording a document that day, you can bypass the line. So you just have to talk to me first. Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick one. Not everyone has to go downtown. You could just give the form to your attorney and have them file it. It's going to cost more, but you can have.
Yes, usually you can have your attorney file a TODI for you. I don't know what private attorneys charge for that service. I know that I'm a legal aid attorney, and so I don't get to charge anything. But it is something you can have your attorney do for you.
Did you say that you had to send an original and a copy?
Yes.
When you're recording the TODI, yes.
Why?
The original gets a recording sticker put on it, and it goes back to you. You retain a copy, just in case there's something that goes wrong in terms of indexing. So that's for us. That's a copy for us. So the original goes back to you.
And that actually brings up a really good point. So when you record a TODI, you don't automatically see it on the recorder's website. It does have to be indexed, and that can sometimes, usually it takes about 2 weeks or so, but it can take a little longer than that. So that's one of those things that really scares some people. They're like, I went downtown, I paid the $59, I recorded this document. It does have to be indexed, and that does take a little bit of time. That's why they're keeping that second document.
What does index mean?
That's where they file it against your PIN number. It's just the process of putting it online, putting it into all of the records.
So basically, it's a person. They sit there, they data entry the information that is on your transfer and death instrument. So your property mix number, the grantor, grantee, right?
They record it.
So in the old days, and I'm talking about pre-1985, indexing was quite literally a person with a pen, handwriting in the information from the document into a book so you can find it. But nowadays, we type that information into a computer so you can see it. It's basically data entry, if you think about it from that point of view. Okay.
How many of you know how to check your deed? Just like you check your credit? Yeah. Just like you check your credit, you should check your deed. We've given you a bookmark, and it explains to you how to go to our website to check to see whatever's on your chain of title. And your chain of title is what?
The chain of title are all the documents that are recorded against your property. And quite literally, you'll see who you bought the property from, who that person bought the property from, going all the way back in time. And if you've had transactions and if you own your house since 1985, that chain of title goes right back to 1985. If you're interested in archival documents that were recorded before 1985, you can come to our downtown location, and we'll have documents all the way back to the Great Chicago Fire. And that's stopped because all our records burned out in the Great Chicago Fire. So come to the Great Chicago Fire forward, we'll have your documents.
Yeah, so sometimes you can actually find older deeds online before 1985. With that said, they are indexed by name, and that's not always the best way to find it. I just know that I can sometimes find some deeds. If your deed is from the 70s, yeah, chances are it's in the microfilm.
Does a beneficiary need to register with the clerk's office? And add to that, if I pass away, how does my beneficiary come to the clerk's office to get the property transferred over into their name?
I think that this question is basically asking, like, how does my beneficiary know that they're my beneficiary and that they need to do this?
That's not the question.
That's not the question?
They have to tell that's what you're getting ready to tell
Yeah, that's what I'm going to
No, the question is, how do they transfer the property over into their name?
Well, I think we have a disagreement about this. Well, first of all, from a legal standpoint, from our perspective, the property, it transfers to that beneficiary upon the person passing away. And quite frankly, the property is really never transferred in someone's name. You don't get a fresh new deed when that person passes away. What the beneficiary can do, they can come to the recorder's office and they can file an acceptance of TODI or something like that. Again, from my perspective, it's called an acceptance of TODI, acceptance of transfer of debt. Now, from my perspective and my interaction with this, we don't really need that. It comes up when we're selling properties, and let's say that a son received the property after the parent passed away. Well, the son already has his own house. The son doesn't want two houses, so the son says, "I'm just going to sell this house." Well, we don't go around and put the deed in the son's name. The transfer of death shows that he's now the owner, and now he has every legal right to then sell the property. So when that person passes away, that property becomes that beneficiary's. That's typically our position. But I know.
Well, however, they do. We would say they do need to come in to claim it. Yes, they need to come in to claim it, and they have a period of time in order to do that. It's a very brief 2 years to do that, I believe. I think it's right. Yeah. So, and if they don't, then the TODI becomes no more, not effective anymore. But
Nah. See, this is where we have our argument, because that's a Cook County Clerk's office rule. There's no statute of law that says that. When you pass away, that house, when you come back 5 years later, if nobody's acting on anything, you can still sell that house.
So the law did change, and the law took away a 2-year period. So just never mind on that. But I think there's an underlying theme here about what happens. Or you're going to come to the clerk's office and we're going to issue you a new title. And I think that should be clarified. Is that very similar to if you pay off your mortgage. we don't send you a deed. We don't send you a new title. Like, for example, if you pay off your car loan, right, the bank sends you your title, right? And then, you get this brand new title, and then sometimes you might, sell your car, and then you got to make sure that you're taking that person who's buying your car to the cash check place to get a new title, currency exchange. Well, we don't do that. We don't issue you a new title. You already have your house. You already bought your house, and you already have your deed. We're not going to create a new deed for you when you pay off your house. Or, for example, in this situation here, the beneficiary comes in. We're not going to create a new deed for them. That's not what we do. So hopefully that clarifies.
So I will say, I do advise my clients when they're, I just give them just a hard time, but I do advise them to go in there to accept the property because what happens is if you're going to keep the property, you have to get it insured. So you have to show that you actually own the property. So you have to have some practicality here. So you're not going to be able to, typically you're not going to be able to get insurance in your name on a piece of property that's in your parents' name. So you typically have to show the insurance agencies, insurance company, that you in fact do own this property. And that is a way that you show that you own the property by accepting the property. That's what my clients use it for.
Yeah, that acceptance of TODI actually serves to put your name in record, not just for insurance, but also if you're trying to claim any property tax exemptions, if you're up in the assessor's office, they want to see that you have some claim to that property. Often they ask you for a deed, but you can show that acceptance of TODI to get those property tax exemptions.
Okay, so if I have a will, why do I need a TODI?
Well, first of all, a will typically cover all of your assets. Bank accounts, checking accounts, jewelry, houses, cars, everything. TODI a will is a public document and it must be probated. So what happens is when a person passes away, their will, if they live in Cook County or wherever they live, they have to take it to the clerk's office in the county in which they live, and it's recorded in that clerk's office. At the circuit court clerk's office, not the clerk's recording office. That's why they should have kept it at Cook County Recorder, but anyway. So the wills are recorded. They're public. The TODI, like we said, upon that person passing away, there's no probate of that house because your estate doesn't own it anymore. That's the whole benefit of a TODI. That's the whole benefit of pay out at death documents. When a person passes away, their assets are then paid to their beneficiaries. No questions asked, nothing else. A will, you have to go for a court, you got to pay an attorney a lot of money to open up the estate. State, like I said, and then just to give you a sense of the time frame, the first day you go to court, if everything's okay, our next continuous date is 14 months. So, and that's assuming that everything's going to be done. They're giving you time to, sell assets, collect assets, things like that. But so probate is long. It's expensive. Like I said, most attorneys start off at $2,500. They bill about an hour, anywhere from $250 to $350 an hour. It's just long and expensive. That TODI saves that. So it's a huge difference. Now again, if you have, it really depends on what type of assets you have. If you have so many other assets, you need something other than a TODI. The TODI only takes care of that house. But it didn't take care of your fur coats, it didn't take care of your jewelry, it didn't take care of, your cars. But there are other instruments out here that can do that. Again, I tell my clients all the time, make sure your 401k, all your IRAs and stuff, make sure they're beneficiaries on those. Because for my clients, the goal is not to go to probate. And the way you don't go to probate is, there's no more assets left in the estate. Upon your passing, everything went to somebody else. So why would we go to probate? There's nothing to go to probate for. I have no more assets.
So Stephen or Eva, is there a minimum amount of time for a case that it takes to go through probate?
I wouldn't say that there's a minimum amount of time that it takes for probate. It really depends on the assets. I mean, you could spend one day in court if everybody agrees and you can fill out an affidavit where everybody signs on what they want. I will just follow up with this. There are two major ways that you can end up in probate court. One is you have over $100,000 in assets. If you have that, great, right? You want to add a beneficiary to absolutely every account you have to try to get under that $100,000 cap. The second major way is going to be if you own real property. For most of us, that's going to be a house. Just by virtue of owning a house that has no succession plan, you will be in probate court. There's a couple other ways, of course, if you have unknown debts, or if your heirs are fighting, or somebody contests the will, or the TODI. Those are ways you can end up in probate court as well. But the two major ones: $100,000 in assets, or having real property like a house. Goal, of course, is to name a beneficiary on every account to get under that $100,000 cap, and having a TODI or another home succession plan to get your house out of your probate estate. People who have been to probate court are usually the first people who don't want to go back, or they know somebody who had a messy probate case. So every time you hear us say, like, you avoid probate court, it really is a big deal. And that's why this instrument can be so, so helpful.
What about trusts? Okay, I have a few questions about a trust, so we're going to link them all together. What's the difference in the types of trusts? I have my property in a land trust. Can I take it out and put it in a TODI? And how do I do it? And okay, if I have my property in a land trust, does that change anything as far as alerts are concerned?
I'll handle alerts first. It doesn't change anything. If you are a beneficiary of a trust, you've got that property in the trust, you can sign yourself up for an alert. That's not a problem at all. You can do it. You can sign up either to get an alert via phone or an alert via email.
So I kind of answered these questions about trust earlier. Trust law is a very large, very exciting, but also very complex area of law for just normal people to understand, which is okay. I mean, I spend a lot of time studying up on it, so it's really hard to explain. With that said, I can't tell you how many types of trusts there are. If your house is in a land trust, you would have to contact the person who holds your land trust if you want to take the property out. And with that said, the difference, so I just want to kind of touch on the difference between a TODI and a trust. So a trust is a private document. They're not recorded on the public record. Then that can serve as a way to move your house from you to your beneficiary in private. No one knows what's in that document, which also begs the question, like, if nobody knows where this document is, how does it transfer? Exactly, it's a private document. A TODI is on the public record, it's attached to your property index number. It is public. So that's the biggest difference in the two documents. It's a matter of privacy. Also, the amount of cost it takes to set one up.
How often do you need to update your will or your trust?
I usually recommend people when you have changes, it just depends on your situation. You have some type of changes, a spouse dies, you get new grandkids, new kids that you want to give access to, or a kid that's acting up, you want to take away from a kid that you put in there. It just depends on your circumstances. But I would say that you should, I always say just annually just review your document. I mean, you're just reviewing it. You don't necessarily have to change it, but you definitely want to review it. It's the same thing like just checking your house. I mean, the first assignment everyone in this room should have is tomorrow just go online and look at the chain of title on your house. I mean, some of it's kind of cool to see who owned your house before you, and you check and see. One of the things that I've been running into when I'm doing, like I said, real estate transactions, a lot of clients, they paid off mortgages, but yet the lender didn't give a release. So that should be on your chain of title. If you paid off your mortgage, there should be a release on there. If you don't see a release on this, contact your lender and say, hey, give me my release. And have it recorded. So, I would just check my estate documents annually, but change it when the facts dictate that they need to be changed.
Is the TODI available only in Cook County? What about in other Illinois counties like DuPage?
Well, the TODI is an Illinois instrument. So it's available in the state of Illinois. The ease of Cook County, I only know about Cook County, the ease of it for Cook County is on the clerk's website. So they have a TODI form that you can print out and fill out. The information, you put the information in and bring it in and have it recorded. I believe some of the other counties have it as well, but again, I can't say that with any assurance, but the transfer of death instrument is not a Cook County instrument, it's an Illinois instrument.
No argument. The form that we were providing, I think, is something the clerk's office itself created. That's not to say that a different county wouldn't create their own forms. I just don't expect that we take that particular form to a different county and that they may accept it. That's all. That's it.
These are tax questions that are coming up. What are the tax implications for passing my home to my beneficiary using a TODI and the transfer on death instrument? And does the TODI eliminate inheritance taxes?
All right, so I can't remember what the threshold for inheritance tax is right now. It's pretty high. With that said, when you inherit property, you get what's called a step up in basis. So basis is essentially the amount that tax is calculated on. So say I bought a house for $100,000. As time goes on, if I sold that house, my taxes at the sale would be calculated on that $100,000. Say I die, right? My basis in the property is now $200,000. My kids inherit that basis in the property. So there isn't necessarily a capital gains tax at death. That is only held for long-term held property that appreciates in a certain amount of value. That's not something that's happening with a TODI. With that said, we do have a consideration. If you are leaving property to a beneficiary who has state benefits, sometimes it would be enough value to boot somebody off state benefits. So you do want to make sure that who you're leaving it to can afford, and I'm using afford in a very broad way, can afford to inherit that property, just in the sense that, like, if they are getting certain care, they may not be able to stay on that care. There might be a disruption if they're inheriting a large sum of money in the form of a house.
And actually, that has come up. So I guess that's the benefit of the transfer death instrument, because as a beneficiary, you don't have to accept it. Your beneficiaries they're not made to accept. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe somebody wouldn't accept the house, but there are occasions where they decide not to accept it. And I've had that a couple of times. First of all, primarily it was because of the condition of the house, and there was a fair amount of liability associated with that house. But again, just because you can list someone as a beneficiary, that beneficiary they're not obligated to accept that house. It's just like accepting a gift. You don't have to accept the gift.
So if my beneficiaries continue to pay my mortgage, does that give them any rights?
No, they're just very nice.
Since we're talking about beneficiaries, can I ask one question?
Yes.
You gotta write it down.
This one real quick though.
Can the condition,
Sorry, I was just gonna say, if your beneficiaries, by virtue of that TODI, when they accept that TODI, they can work with your mortgager. So if you pass away and you still have a mortgage on your home, if you don't have a home succession plan, if you don't have a TODI or some other document that's putting your beneficiaries on title, they will not be able to work with the mortgager as easily as if you have a TODI. That acceptance of TODI when you pass away is a key to them working with your mortgager, for your mortgager to work with them and make sure that they can now assume your payments. Sorry, you did have a question, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. Can the contingency beneficiary be minors?
Yes. Typically, when I'm drafting a TODI, what we're doing is we are borrowing language from the wills that we draft, and we name a custodian for them. So, because you don't want a 3-year-old to accept a house, right? They don't know what to do with it. They don't know what property taxes are. They don't even know what a tax is. But so you don't want a minor to like take possession of that property, but you can leave it to a minor with a custodian.
So when you fill this out, you have to list a custodian then?
I think it also might be beyond that form. You might want to consult with an attorney.
Okay.
You're looking at this, that's a standard form, so you're getting into areas that need to be nuanced just for your specific situation.
Is there any way to avoid probate if the living children agree to property ownership?
No. But, I mean, you gotta ask, if, no?
You can go to probate court and you can do it. But you still have
But
to
you're going to probate court.
You have to go for one day.
You're gonna have to go to probate whenever, you have to look at it this way. The only person that can change ownership of a piece of property is the person that owns that property. With that said, the only other person is through judicial order. So a judge can give someone authority to sign an administrative deed, an executive deed, or something like that. But only that person that owns the property. And if that person passes away without a succession plan or anything else like that, you have to go to probate court. If you don't have a TODI or something else, if it's not in a trust or something else that you haven't established, only a judge can do that, and that's only through probate.
So like emphasize that point, like if you don't have a plan, the state of Illinois has a plan for you and they're gonna execute that plan. They will try to, represent your wishes, but you know you better than they know you, so there you go.
So these are our last questions for the sake of time. How do you leave money or your home to a charity?
I mean, I would, if you're gonna do that, just put it in a will. I don't see any other, you don't leave your home.
How do you leave money or your home to a charity?
Put it in a will. I guess they can put it in a TODI as well. I mean, they can be beneficiary on the TODI as well, but just, to me, I think you talk to if you have money in your bank, it would be the same difference as leaving it to your son or daughter or United Way or Goodwill or whoever. Just pay out a debt.
I think that the underlying narrative is, if you want to name a beneficiary, you got to tell them that you name them as a beneficiary. You got to share your plan with them. If you're filling out a TODI and you're going to give it to your X, Y, and Z, but you never tell X, Y, and Z that left them this, then the Cook County Clerk's office is not going to contact your beneficiaries to tell them, hey, somebody left you some property. That's not how that works. So make sure to share your plan with your beneficiaries. Make sure they understand where your important documents are, right? Make sure that they have access to that. And I think to add to that, just so everybody's aware, sometimes I get a question about cemetery deeds. We don't record cemetery deeds at the Cook County Clerk's office or even back then at the Cook County Recorder of Deeds office. Cemetery deeds, the right to be buried at a cemetery, those sit with the cemetery itself. And I've had untold numbers of very uncomfortable and very sad conversations with survivors who remember their parents having purchased cemetery plots, but they didn't tell their children where it was. So if you're going to have a plan, you got to make sure to share that plan, with the people that are important to you.
Also, I just want to say, I'm a little Miss Doom and Gloom. I talk about death every day, and I recognize that most people in this room do not do that. But I mean, if you're going to take three. If you're going to take 3 things away from today's discussion, 1, property fraud. You want to sign up for that. It's free. You need to do it. 2, TODIs. They're great. If you need more, if you're not sure if it works for you, contact an attorney. Myself, anybody really, just start talking about it. And 3rd, you want to talk to your family. Talk to the people you love. Talk to the people you want to leave things to. This is meant to be a discussion. I recognize some cultures, it's really negative to talk about death because you're opening the door to it. But it is one of those things, use this as a time to start having these really difficult conversations. Maybe not Christmas dinner, but when everybody's together. You want to start talking about these things and use it as a time to connect with your family.
Okay.
The connect there too is if you have the hard conversations now, later it'll be a lot easier. So like anything else in life when you're raising kids or whatever, they get hard now and it'll be easier later.
This one is kind of different. My spouse is a citizen. I am a green card holder. How does this impact the property transfer points you are speaking about today?
All right, so I don't have any prior experience with this, but I do recognize that there's like an intense political climate right now relating to people who don't have legal status. With that said, ownership here in the United States isn't like ownership in other countries. Specifically in my brain, I think in Mexico, a United States citizen can't own property. They can only have like a 100-year lease. Do you Google me on that? But I'm pretty sure I looked into it and I think that's what happened. With that said, I believe as a non-citizen, you can own property here in Illinois. They would go through all of this. Of course, they would want to accept the TODI, they would want to do all of these steps, but that is happening in tandem with any immigration proceedings that are happening.
So if a person was in the process of is deported, but they bought a house, and the spouse, she's citizen, and she did not get completion of immigration status, but then still paying the house. Can he do a TODI?
I would have to look more into that and research it a little more. I know that a non-citizen can own property. I think that he could accept it. I think that he could do a TODI because, like, I do tell people in other countries that our wills here in America aren't necessarily valid in other countries like Korea. So it would be a form of estate planning here in America. But I don't know how it would interplay in Mexico. I just don't. I would have to research that.
That you mentioned, the climate that we are speaking right now, and there are a lot of people that they are paying the mortgage, and they got properties, and for some reason, the status is taking for a long time.
I understand
that. For example, the person who does not long. That's so terrible because this person takes time. But if his status is not, for example, ready to whatever status is going to be given, then if he's been paying into that mortgage, what's going to happen to the money that he has paid?
I mean, if the question is whether he can do a TODI, yes, he can do a TODI.
But you have to remember the hard part with that, because that's a very specific fact pattern. The hard part about that is, remember, a TODI is transfer on death. It's not transfer once you leave this country. So it doesn't transfer until that person passes away. How would you know? How do you show proof? I mean, that's just a very difficult question, and it would be very fact specific to be truthful. I mean, that's tough. Yeah.
Last question. If we have not answered your questions during this session, the attorneys will be available after we close out. Now, should a married couple each fill out a TODI?
I feel like I'm talking to Mike. So a married couple can fill out a TODI together. That's called a joint TODI. Essentially, of course, the caveat with that is depending on how they own the property. It really comes down to how they own the property. If they jointly own the property, so there's that right of survivorship, the survivor or the first to die will have the option to do a new TODI when the first to die passes away. If it's tenants in common, we would suggest each of the two spouses doing their own TODI to protect the other spouse, So if one spouse dies, the other spouse gets that 100% of the property like that. So it really just depends on, one, the marriage, what are the goals, two, how the property is owned, and then three, like if that's what you want to do. And when you do a joint TODI, both people have to agree to the same beneficiaries.
Okay. Now, how was that for free information? Now we go from one end of the county to another, far south, west, north, northwest, east, and south. And we have a number of other PAD events that are coming up. You can get the flyer at our table. You can come to as many of these events as you choose. There are different questions that are asked at each event sometimes we have different attorneys. So if you didn't get the answers to your questions today, you can come to some of our other events and get free information. So what are you going to do with the information that you used today? Use it. It's no good if you don't use it. And what we're trying to convey to all of you is that it's very important that you have some type of plan. You have to have a plan. COVID threw us for a loop, right? So we have to be prepared to transfer our hard-earned assets. Now, I want you to thank the attorneys on the panel. They volunteered their time to come out to these forums, and we really appreciate them because they don't have to do it. So we're glad that you came. We want to thank our hosts for having us. If you need to speak with our attorneys after we close, feel free to come up and speak with them, get their business cards, their contact information, and know that the clerk's office is here to serve you. Okay? So thank you for coming. Assessor Hines, is there something that you would like to say? Thanks for coming out. Thank you all for being here.